Hey y'all, good evening from lovely Pocahontas County, West Virginia. Hey, so been getting some requests, not a whole lot, but a few requests, people asking me advice on training hounds, bear dogs, coon dogs, whatever it is. And I'm no professional, let me just say that right up front. But I'm gonna make a few videos, how I train them and what I do. But I'd like to start with just a video of me telling you what I do and what I shy away from, and disclaimers for anybody who trains a different way. You know, there's no one set way to train a dog. Videos are not going to be the best quality. I'm doing them on my phone by myself right now. Maybe I can get somebody to come with the camera when I actually start running the dogs. This is not going to be one of those watch the dogs run through the woods on a track and tree. Like I posted the other day, that was just me on the spur of the moment, being proud of my pups and making a video and sharing it. But this video is not going to be that. This video is going to be me explaining what I do, not telling y'all what to do, because there's people out there that know a lot more than I do, I promise you. But the very first thing I do is consider the age of the pup. Now, mine are 6 months old. Now, I know old timers and people that have been doing this bear hunting thing a while and coon hunting or whatever. They will take a 6-month-old pup and throw it down with older dogs and put them on a bear track, and well, y'all know a bear will run forever. And I don't do that. I might put them on a track every now and then, but all I'm doing right now is laying scent trails for the dogs or for the pups. And that scent trail has varied anywhere from 300 yards to 2,000 yards. The last one I did was 2,000. Now, I don't go backwards. Every track from now on will be 2,000 or greater, because I'm not going to go backwards on my pups because they're doing so well. But I don't put tracks out for them every day. I don't even put them out every other day, and I'm going to tell you why. Because at 6 months old, those pups are still developing. And if you run them pups too hard, and I'm not saying it happens, I'm not saying it will happen, but it can happen that you can injure those pups. They're not fully developed. Ligaments, muscles, tendons, bone structure, none of it's fully developed. Now, as the disclaimer, yes, I do let my pups out, like they're out here with me right now with my house dogs. I do let them out to run every day, but I'm not forcing them on a track. They're just out here playing. They're being puppies. And that's another thing that I wanted to bring up. If your dogs are 4 months old or younger, I would say, maybe even 5 months old, to err on the side of caution, let them be puppies. You know, you can start training them obedient stuff like stay or sit, and then stay is implied. They say stay is implied. I find it easier to teach the word stay, because when I tell my dogs to sit, I may be in the house just wanting to pet them for a second and don't give them the release command when I stop petting them, so they're free to go. I teach them stay, so when I tell them to stay, they know that's where they need to go. Also, in my opinion, especially with hounds, a very important command is wait. And what wait means is, you know, if I sit a dog down and I tell him to stay, then he needs to stay in that position until I release him. If I set a dog down and tell him to wait, that dog should know that he can change positions. He can stand up, he can lay down, he can, get up and move around the immediate area. And where that command comes in handy, especially for hounds, the biggest thing you'll see with a hound is when you go to feed them. You can teach them wait, or you can teach them a command I use is called box, to get in your box and wait for me to feed you. That way they're not bombarding you. Now, with my pups, I don't really have a problem with that, because my pups are not food driven. I can't use food to train my pups. They're not that driven by food. Now, they eat. Yeah, of course they eat, but it's just not their number one priority. And if you have a dog like that, because a lot of hounds, most hounds will be food driven. Now, my lab, she's very food driven. I can make her do anything. My shepherd is not so food driven. He's ball driven. So I can take a ball out and show it to him, and that dog will do whatever I want him to do. With these hounds, they like bear scent. And they like bear scent because, as I said, 4 or 5 months old and younger, you don't want to be running those pups a whole lot. But you can take a bear hide or a rag with bear scent on it, or coon scent, deer scent, whatever you're training your dogs to go after, coyote scent, and let them chew on it. Just give it to them. Let them have it. Play tug of war with them. Playing tug of war with them makes them, first off, it develops a bite, okay? And you want a good bite. Now, with a bear dog, you don't want a bite where they're just going to hold on, because that's not good for anybody. That's just going to cost you money in the long run with vet bills. But you teach them to bite, and bite hard, because it takes a lot to get a bear up a tree. You need a dog that's going to be gritty and be on that bear. And by playing tug of war and let them win, let them tug on it a little bit, and then let them have it, and then praise them. Good boy, good girl, whatever. And that teaches the bite. But in the first few months, you should be leash training that puppy. You should be training that puppy obedience, sit, stay, heel, wait, kennel, or box, whichever word you prefer. I prefer box because it's a one-syllable word and they just understand it better. And it's even gotten to the point now where I can tell my 6-month-old puppies, which are coming right there, they're out here running with the big dogs, I can tell them box and they'll go in. Now with my big dogs, I can open the kennel door and they go in. Automatically, they know what I want. So, because my dogs don't stay in the kennel all day. Which brings me to another point. Bonding with your pups or whatever. And there's a lot of bear hunters that don't do that. They have a pup, they put it in the kennel, they take it out to train it, and they put it back in the kennel. And that's fine, it works. That hound is going to do what he was bred to do. He's going to chase stuff. And, that's fine. I, on the other hand, I prefer to build a bond with my dogs. My pups have been inside since they were 6 weeks old, okay? They stay inside with me. When I go somewhere during the day, they go out in their kennel. They sleep inside with me. And what this does is, people say, oh, it spoils your dog. They don't want to get out from under your feet. Well, my dogs are never under my feet. I can bring them out here for a walk, and I have to go find them when it's time to go home, because I've got them out right now, and I didn't bother to put their collars on them. So they're just out here running with me. And when I say go find them, I mean, they're hound dogs. I could call them from 300 yards and they'll turn around and look at me, but they ain't coming, close half that distance and call them. Then they come to me and follow me home. And that's something else I need to work on. Now, people say you've got to obedience train your dogs, your hounds or whatever, before you put them on a track. And yeah, I can see where that would come in handy. But, some words you're going to use with your pups every day: sit, stay, heel. Teach them not to pull on the leash. You don't always want them at a heel. And I don't know that I would even bother to teach a hound heel. I don't see this sense in it. Just teach them not to pull on the leash, because when you're walking them dogs through the woods to find a bear, the last thing you want to do is get drugged down a hill. But those are words that you'll use every day. So that sit and that stay and that wait and that kennel will come over time. You don't have to sit out there for an hour and beat sit into your dog. They're going to learn that over time. I found this to be true with my shepherd. I found it to be true with my lab. I'm finding it to be true with the pups. They don't sit the greatest right now. They're 6 months old. But I guarantee you, by a year old, when I tell them to sit, they're going to sit down. Now, weight is taught, especially with bird dogs. If that dog is on the trail of a bird, say you're pheasant hunting, and it goes to cross a road, and you don't want that dog to cross that road, you tell it to wait, that dog should stop. And what they use on bird dogs, it's a whoa command, right? I use wait. And that way you keep that dog from crossing that road and putting himself in harm's way. I'm going to tell you right now, the only time I think that that's going to be useful with a hound dog is if you're trying to do something in the box and you don't want that dog jumping all over you or jumping at the food bucket when you're trying to feed it. Because if you get a pack of hounds on a bear that crosses a road, you're not going to scream out, wait, and have those dogs stop. It's just not going to happen, okay? They're so focused on that bear, they're probably not even going to hear you. Bear, coon, deer, whatever it is. Now, keep in mind, I say bear because that's what I'm training these dogs for. But it applies to anything you're training your hounds to run. Now, I already touched on the fact that don't overrun your pups. You can hurt them. You can hurt them. I'm talking dislocated joints. They just don't have the bone structure and the muscle mass and the tendon and ligament structure that they need, at young ages. So I will run my pups, and then I'll take 2 or 3 days before I ever run them again. But I'm always out here doing something with them, even if it's just walking. That's called bonding. And the reason I touch on bonding is because, you keep that dog in a kennel 24/7 unless he's out on a track or you're training him to sit, heel, stay, whatever you're training him to do. He's going to do it. He's going to work for you. You're feeding him every day. He knows that. She knows that. But I take it farther than that. I bond with my pups. I love my pups. I'm freshly divorced. My dogs are what I have in my life. So, I've got family and stuff around here, but my pups are what I have. So I bond with my pups. Now the main thing that does is they've already got that drive because they're bred to do what you're wanting them to do, whether it be running deer, bear, coyotes, out west, mountain lions, whatever you're doing with them. You build that bond with them, and it gives them a stronger drive. It gives them a drive to please you now, right? When you let them out of the kennel for a couple of hours to go out and run a track and train a little bit, they do that, and they focus because that's what they're bred to do, especially on a track with hound dogs. They are bred to be on that track, and they're going to do it, regardless of whether you bond with them or not. Don't get me wrong. When you take them out of the kennel that once a day or whatever you're doing and putting them on that track, you're bonding with your dogs. I'm sure you're praising them for doing good. You're correcting them for doing wrong. Okay? But when you actually build that bond like I do with my dogs, and now I'll be the first one to tell you I probably take it overboard because my dogs are in the house with me. It's just what we do. I love having my dogs around me. I like at the spur of the moment, I can say, Shiloh, come here. And she comes over and lets me rub on her chest a little bit. And when she gets bored, she leaves. I say, Dixie, come here. Of course, the 2 big dogs are always right there. If I call the pups to me, they always come over because they want loving too. But what it does is it gives them that drive, not the innate drive that they already have from their breed, but the drive to please you as an owner. Because once you build that bond, that dog will want to do anything you want it to do. You can train it to do just about anything. Now, when it comes to trailing, tracking, whatever, you want them pups to be on the trail that you put out. Now, I've got a lot of deer around here where I live. And deer can be a concern for a bear dog. You got to break them. But do not put your collars on them and start shocking those dogs off of any track at 6 months old. That's not the time. You want them to know that when they find a track, they run it, period. You can break them later, okay? Yeah, it's going to be a little harder to break them. But it's more important to have them running a track, right off the bat. I've let these girls tree squirrels. They got after a coyote here one night. I let them run that coyote for a little while because they're 6 months old. They get tired and they come back. And that coyote, he's going to do some stuff and go in a den. They're not going to be able to get to him anyways. But if you're putting a trail out for them and you're actually going to be hunting them and not have them out here with my big dogs like I have, keep your GPS collars on them. Which brings me to another point, your GPS shock collars. I use the Garmin Alpha 100. I use TT15 collars. They are not only a GPS, but they're a training system. Put them on your pups. Even if they're loose, put them on your pups. Don't shock them. Hell, for a while, you might not even turn them on, okay? Get them used to the collars. If you start putting a collar on a dog, and say say you let your dogs out of the kennel, you put your collars on them, you put them on a trail. You want to break them off a deer, they take off on a deer and you shock them, and it's the first time they've ever had that collar on. Guess what? 2 days of that and they know that collar means they can get shocked. So when the collar's on, they're going to behave. When the collar's off, they're not going to do anything you want them to do because they know that collar's not on them and you can't correct them, right? Put the collar on them 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Let them wear them around. You can turn them on for the GPS purpose in case they run off. You can find your dogs, but don't shock them. You know, let them get used to the collar. That way, when you do start shocking them, they don't associate that shock with the collar, and you don't have a care in the world because they'll mind you whether you have the collar on them or off of them because they don't know where that shock came from. Brings me to another point. You know, don't shock young dogs. My God, you'll make them shy of anything. You know, just stay off the shocker. Let your dogs run. Let them do their thing. My girls are out here down by the pipeline right now with my lab. I don't know what they're doing. I dumped a deer carcass out here last year after bow season. It's just bones and stuff, but they come down and chew on that, which, yeah, it's probably not the best thing for them, but I don't want to come down here and pick up a nasty deer carcass, and they don't stay on it long enough to hurt anything anyways. But that's my first video. I know I kind of jumped all over the place. I don't have a script. I'm not reading anything. I'm talking to you from my heart, from what I know. I've done a lot of obedience training with dogs, shepherds, labs, mutts. These are my first hounds. And I'll tell you what, these hounds are every bit as smart, if not smarter, than my shepherd is. He just listens better because he's pushing 8 years old and they're 6 months old. So he listens a lot better. But be careful with your young pups. Don't get them doing things that's going to get them hurt. And again, you can have a 6-month-old pup that's got a whole lot of grit, and you turn him loose on a live bear, and that pack of dogs catches that bear, and that 6-month-old pup goes in, and now you've got a dead pup. You know, because he don't know to get away from it. He hasn't learned yet. Granted, it's kind of instinctual, and most of them will do it automatically when that bear turns on them, get away from it. But there are some that won't. There's my lab. She loves to be in the water. I don't know if you saw that picture or not, but she loves to be in the water. But anyways, and then my shepherd. Kaiju, come here, sit. Good boy. Y'all see him? Oh, I don't even have it on him. There he is. Good boy. All right, so that's my video. Kind of boring, me being long-winded.